Hello and welcome to the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast with Mike and Laurent. It is Tuesday, December 7th. Pearl Harbor is being bombed. West Ham show us who Chelsea really are. Liverpool are lucky again from Origi again. But before we run through the scores, Mike, talk to us about the Germans.
Was it over? Was it over when Pearl Harbor was bombed by the Germans?
Just let them go.
It's becoming a bit of a crystal knock. Speaking of World War II in the Premier League, right? You've got
teams getting smashed
Tuchel,
by glass and
yes, you've got
Tuchel, and businesses ruined.
And well, that's all over the US, I guess. But Tuchel, Klopp, now Rangnick, Hasenhüttl, right?
He's German adjacent. He was part of the Anschluss in 1938.
Listen. He's got Nazi blood in him. Okay, let's be clear about something here. All right,
he is a big, tall dude.
Here's the thing. Here's why we're talking about Germans. It's because it is Laurent's 25th birthday today, or yesterday, technically. And so, in celebration of everybody's favorite psychopathic, self-loathing football fan who loves, if you listen to the show, loves talking about World War II references in Germans as much as he loves his own family.
I don't like them.
We decided to open the show with some Pearl Harbor and Crystal Knock jokes in honor of my friend Laurent. So happy birthday to you, buddy.
Thank you, friend. Thank you, friend. Thank you. I was calcified at 38 when you met me, and I'm definitely calcified now. But first, I'm going through the scores. Let's do the roundup. First, here I go. West Ham 3, Chelsea 2. Wow. West Ham were good. They're still fighting. Chelsea away, a bugaboo team for them. West Ham can tell the world that they're kings of London. Chelsea slipping. Their XG gold is slipping away as Mendy falls through. I love
keep going through, and we'll come back to this game because I got a lot to say about it.
Okay, Newcastle, get off the Schneid. Were they on the Schneid? Woo-hoo. They were on the Schneid, and they're off the Schneid. They get a goal because a goalkeeper fucked up and the ball went off his head and he went too far. Burnley lose.
Yeah, I'm not sure that really counts as getting off the Schneid if it's against Burnley, but
they don't
ask you how. They ask you how many. That's three in the good column.
Southampton, Brighton draw again for the 8th time in 11 matches.
Oh, we're going to come back to this one.
1-1 with Burnley, with Brighton against Southampton. My friend Neil Mope sticks it in again to get the draw late. Well, let's watch out for the Windex. Liverpool, oh God, with freaking Origi, pull it out of their ass again. 0-1 to Liverpool. 1-3 Watford versus Manchester City. This was not even that close. Are you ready for the XG? 0.7 for Watford, 3.7 for Manchester City. That was a big, ugly goal.
The face.
Our friend, Mr. Patrick Bamford, returns off the bench, 95th minute, knees it in against Brentford. Brentford looked like they were going to get a win in Ellen Road, and they can't do it. Oh, boy. Tottenham have a nice and easy win at home against Norwich City. Quietly in 5th place because the league is so weird. Then we talk about our new German friend in Manchester United in Old Trafford. We were worried for United against Palace. The thing about this game, yes, they win 1-0 on Fred. They were in control, something we cannot say about United ever, never, ever. Villa, it is the master. It is the pupil taking over the master. Aston Villa behind Gerrard win 2-1 at home against Leicester. Leicester are in fucking trouble. There were some disallowed goals here that I have to talk about. And then today, Rafa Benitez gets himself off the Schneid. There's more Schneids than I'd like to Schneid about. Beating Arsenal. Arsenal falling back to earth, just like you said, a bit of a paper tiger, a bit of a youthful team. But first, we've got to go back to East London and the London Stadium. West Ham 3, Chelsea 2. And Mike, take it away.
Really a big back and forth game.
A good one.
Really a good one. But we've talked about Chelsea a lot this year, and we've given them their due, but we've also been fair about it and said, look, these guys are not going to be there at the end of the year. And let me be clear. By be there, I mean be looking in the eyes of of Liverpool and of Manchester City.
They're not as good.
That's just not where they belong, right? On a day, they can beat anybody. They proved in the Champions League last year. But there's there's just something about a 38 game schedule that they just, I called them flat track bullies. I called them a bunch of things where they're just, this is not meant as an insult. What it means is they're not one of the most dominant teams in the world right now.
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
and that's okay.
They're up there. They're just not as good as Liverpool and City. I think
on their day, they're as good, if not better, as any team in the world. Consistently, they are not, right? They don't have their day. Champions, I read something, it's an old trope, and it's true. It was about Michigan, who, by the way, Big Ten champions. I read something where it was basically champions win on their best days, and champions find ways to win when they're not their best days, when they're off. This was clearly a game where Chelsea had 64% possession, but they scored twice, right? They got a goal.
This is a game that they should not have lost. I think the big thing is Chelsea were on track to be one of the greatest defenses of all time. That might be a little bit out of their range now. And we're seeing the last 3 matches in the league, they've given up. Here we go now. Let me get this right. No clean sheets in their last 3. So where they were not giving up anything, they're starting to give up goals. And I will tell you that the reason for that is no N'Golo Kante. This team is at its greatest and at its most indestructible when Kante is in there. It's not just the defense. It's everything. It's defense to attack. It's passes. It's running with the ball. The drop-off from Kante to Ruben Loftus-Cheek is about the difference between their height, which is like 6'2" to 5'4". It's not the same. Like, all the pieces are the same. And then the other piece is Marcus Alonso from Chilwell is also a drop-off. This team has depth. We've been lauding it.
He's a very streaky player, though. Yeah. He's very streaky.
Well, he's just not. He just doesn't have. He's not as lithe and lively and getting in the box. So they're just not as good. They have good players. They have a lot of depth, but when they cannot replace Kante. Kante is the irreplaceable object.
Let's look into that a little bit more. Let's talk about it. Manchester United, and this is a spoiler alert because their 6 won the game for them. But we've talked all year long about how all they needed to do was buy a 6. And I mean like a world-class 6. Right? A Declan Rice. West Ham has. Chelsea has Kante. You know, over the years, you've had that Fernandinho role. Now you've got Rodri in that role.
Rodri's been fucking incredible.
Why is it let me preface it with a question. Is the number 6, is the defensive midfielder the most underrated role on the club by the clubs themselves? What I mean is they can't help themselves. These big teams, they want to get another attacking winger or a fullback or a big meaty center back, right?
It's not sexy. It's not.
It's just
it doesn't sell shirts. Yeah, it's offensive linemen. It's you know, I mean, I think people understand that now, but the punditry and coverage within mainstream sport coverage, let's say your, Gary Neville, Carragher, and whatever, or actually those guys are pretty knowledgeable, but
I'd say
they talk about it. They talk about it in a little bit of context, and they do a decent job of it. But your Talk Sport, who we go after a lot, especially now that we're growing in the UK. Hello, all right.
I hope they like all those German jokes to start.
Yeah, they love that. They love that. They're in with those jokes. It's just difficult for the layperson to see the play that happens 3 phases before that got you up the pitch, right? Might be there's an attack that happens. The guy does an interception, maybe passes it back to his defenseman. They go it out to the wing. It's at the number 10, and they're off, right? It's not clear. Same reason Rodri is not really appreciated. It's one of these roles that you've got to watch the team on a regular basis to know the effect that the guy has. So, and it's not sexy to say, oh, Chelsea are slipping because Conte's not playing. And then they go, they got $1 billion. They should have depth. Yes, but the difference between Conte and everyone else is massive.
Well,
right?
Okay, and I was going to touch on that too. Yes, I'm not arguing that, and there is no argument for it. But if you were to get a replacement level guy who, by the way, Ruben Loftus-Cheek in that role is not replacement level. He's below average. Yeah. And this is not a knock on him. This is to say that anybody West Ham brings in behind Declan Rice is going to be significantly below average. Yeah. Okay. Scott McTominay, not average, right? Like, no. So that's the thing where it's not so much that you need to try and find the next Conte. It's not that you need to roll out too deep in N'Golo Kante's. It's that you just have to have a guy who's not going to lose a game for you in that role, right? Like, because as we said, A, he's getting up there. B, he's sort of been made of glass over the years.
Well, he just takes those two things. He's too little. Worse. He gets the shit kicked out of him.
Yeah, no, of course, but that goes on.
But the thing is that when you don't have Conte, Jorginho gets exposed. You can ask any Chelsea fan. They're just like, he's incredible. He ticks the ball over, but he lost them that United game because who would have been in that spot when the ball went in the air?
Sure.
Conte would have been there. And Jorginho today also put a ball into Mendy that essentially cost him a goal because Mendy wasn't ready for it. And that confidence level, Mendy starts to look worse because he's getting more shots on target that are less protection. There's it's this. And then we go back to get ready for drinking. Football is a weak link sport, which means when your strongest link in the chain now becomes something you strung together with duct tape, then you're really much weaker because this thing was holding everything together. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You're counting on that. Yeah. If there's a weak link that you're used to having, if it's Marcus Alonso, let's say, you're like, oh, okay, let's play down the right, whatever. Like you're keeping the ball away from them.
Yeah.
But if it's A, central, and B, something that's a focal point of your, not just your attack, but your everything.
It's your identity. Yeah.
Yeah, your identity. Then it sort of falls apart. It seems much easier, right? Yeah. It's hard. But that's what I mean. I just don't understand why. I mean, I do, right? But
it's hard. It's just a hard position to find.
And for you, okay, fine. For if I'm managing a team, and I have N'Golo Kante, and I know he's old, and I know he's sort of broken at this point. Yeah. How the fuck is that not your first, second, and third priority? Like, you went out and you spent $100 million on Romelu Lukaku. You didn't need him. He's barely playing. Right?
Yeah,
Injuries, fine, whatever.
It is weird. I don't understand it. Maybe there's a little bit of blind spot. Maybe they think that your boy, who's the young guy that's a loanee at Norwich, will come in. No, the other one, not from your team. The kid who's the Chelsea kid. The Scottish kid.
Billy Gilmore.
Can't remember. Yeah, maybe they think Gilmore will become that. Maybe they think they can cover it with Saul. Maybe they think, anything. I don't know the answer. But I think we should go through the game because
Saul, you know what? I should stop. Saul was that guy for that
coverage.
Yeah,
right.
Okay. All right.
So or Mount can be that or whatever. So the game starts. Chelsea, of course, don't score goals from strikers because they never do. Thiago puts them up early and then this is the first mistake. Lanzini scores a penalty on the Jorginho back pass. My guy, Jared Bowen, one of the classic fan tracks trackers, because I hunted his ass down when he had 20 goals at the break at Hull before West Ham bought him. He was one of my favorite players. He bum rushes Mendy. Mendy can clear it, but Bowen gets on top of him. Mendy brings him down. Lanzini steps up. Then, of course, showing Chelsea have good resilience. Mason Mount with a killer on the half volley strike puts Chelsea up. Chelsea up 2-1. First of all, they shouldn't even give up one. Chelsea winning is about as hardcore a game over as you can do. Then at the half, West Ham lose another defender. At this point, West Ham have none of their regular defenders. They don't have Zuma, who's hurt. He misses the game. It's Dawson and Diop. And then Ben Johnson drops out of the game. So they've got basically no defenders left. Lukaku comes on at halftime for Havertz, who did nothing. Then Bowen with a killer strike from Kufal. West Ham are up. The game's tied. Ziyech comes off. Pulisic comes on for Alonso. But the interesting thing here is Zuma comes off not for a defender, but for Fornals. Rice drops into defense, and Moyes is telling his guys, you guys are good. we're not afraid of Chelsea.
Yeah.
We're going to go get this fucking win right now. Takes Lanzini off, brings on Benrahma. So they're going for it. Moyes has told his team, fuck Chelsea. We're at home. We're West Ham. We're in the top 4. We're going to get this thing. There's a run on the outside. So Masuaku should never score this goal, but there's a run on the outside that opens up the space in a weird way, an overlapping run. Somehow there's a moment to stop blocking the cross. Chelsea kind of just a half a second of confusion, and Masuaku just tries to cross it into the box. He mishits it or does it on purpose. It basically throws a knuckleball into the top corner. Mendy isn't even looking at it because he's assuming the cross is going to come across the front of the goal and bend the other way, and it pops in, and West Ham get the winner in the 87th minute. Incredible scenes, West Ham blowing bubbles, and
and staying in the top 4.
Staying in the top 4 when like the pressure is on for real now.
Yeah, no, because
really,
and we'll talk
really
about
good
it
result
over the course of the other games, but we talked about how there's 2 teams, 3 teams, and then there's 10, right?
Yeah, there's 3
that's
and 10.
starting to the form is starting to the gel is starting to harden, right? Like we're starting to see, okay, you're falling away. Now there's still a ton of games in the next 30 days, and there's still a lot of wiggle room for this to change. But the tea leaves, we're almost at the halfway point. You're starting to be like, okay, this is really who you are. And more importantly, this is who you aren't, right? And this is, again, I think the first lesson that we learned. I think there's 3 teams, maybe 4 if you count West Ham. There's 3 teams that we learned something definitively about. And Chelsea was the first one, right? It's like, hey, you're not a title challenger. You're just not. And again, I say that on December 7th, 2 points off the top.
I mean, listen, like I said, it's 35 goals for XG of 27, 9 goals against XG of 15. Everything about them says they're not as good as their numbers.
Yes.
So they've slid down just a little bit, not too bad. But Liverpool and City are the real. They are playing to their numbers and real, right? Everyone else is relatively close together, except for Crystal Palace, which is weirdly a plus, even though they're down in 14th.
Yeah.
Next up, the fucking awful shit heels that are Liverpool. I had a feeling about this Wolves team playing well, and they did play well. They defended for their fucking lives, but they were organized. I didn't feel as though they were lucky. They took one off the line, I think. But Liverpool find a fucking way to get this done. Yes, the XG, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about that. It was still an incredible performance from Wolves. But, of course, what happens? Origi off the bench. Origi finishes. It's just like, can this just not happen, please?
Yeah. I mean,
it was just that. I mean, there's really not much else to talk about.
Okay.
We know that we talk about often how good Liverpool are. They're the best team in the world. I still think their 11 is better than City's 11 because City are 22 deep. So I don't know which of the 11 and from City are the best 11, but I know who the best 11 in Liverpool are. So City can play 4 11s for all I care, but Liverpool's 11 is as good as anyone's.
Yeah, you can almost argue that their biggest strength is that they are exactly like, okay, going into the biggest game of the year, we didn't know City's exact lineup. I feel like we should. If it was Liverpool in the Champions final,
and that's the problem.
Lineup is.
I kind of wish that there wasn't other people because then Pep wouldn't pick them.
I've said that for years. You have to take their toys away.
Yeah, it's just like, for fuck's sake.
But listen, let's go back to what I just said about Chelsea. Yeah. Champions find ways to win when they're not at their best. Liverpool, this is just the latest example. And you don't need us to tell you that. You could go back to 10 examples in the last calendar year where you're like, are you fucking kidding me again?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you serious, Liverpool?
They just do this. And Thiago was the leader in touches. So you get a sense that Thiago is there for the moments like this. He controlled this game as much as he could. As much as, Wolves were heroic and, they played well and they looked like they were going to get this draw. But no. Liverpool move on. They stay in touching distance. So for a moment there, they were in first. They jumped over Chelsea. Chelsea had seemed to be slipping a bit, seem to be cruising down. The City game comes up next. City just annihilate Watford, and I don't think it's even close. It's one of these games where, if I look at this, as I watched the game, I was like, oh, typical City. They kind of don't have a killer instinct. They don't have a striker. And it's just looking at it from the surface. But then you look at the stats, and it's like City had 26 shots on target. 26 shots, 12 on target. The first half is just like a complete and utter dominant performance. But, they couldn't get a goal until Bernardo Silva once again comes up with Raheem Sterling early. Raheem Sterling early. You think they're going to just batter them. Then Silva with two more, one later in the first, and then later in the second half. But it was pure dominance, more of the same from City. It now the record after so Watford scored a goal, and in their last 6 games, I believe City were outscoring Watford 20-0 until the goal was scored. So it's just like a pure dominance, destructive force. City not even getting out of first gear. They roll in and just like, oh, we're going to bring on Jack Grealish and Phil Foden for this game. And then we're going to do some changes. We'll bring on De Bruyne, Mahrez, and Jesus as our subs from the 67th minute on. It's just like not fair. The depth is there. City pull into first place. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't let it go, honestly. They're so good right now, even though they don't finish, which is weird. They're the opposite of Neil Mopé. Well, actually, they're exactly the same as Neil Mopé, except without the sodomy. I can't hear you, Mike.
I was on mute. I want to talk about Watford and take the devil's advocate approach on something. That's why you got that drivel about Man City for so long. So, I look at the table and I look at Watford with 4 wins, 1 draw, 10 losses, and they're minus 13 goal difference right now.
Yeah, they're pretty bad.
I'm sorry, they're minus 9, excuse me. Yeah, sure. But when I look at Burnley, now Watford are in 17th. Burnley currently in the first place of the relegation zone, 1-7-6 with a -7. Now, we've always talked about from a philosophical perspective of go try and win games regardless of opponents. 3 points are better than 1. You have to only win 1 every. It's
true in the mid-table, but in the bottom, those single points.
So here's where it matters the most, right? I think, and it's negligible right now. It's only 2, but when Watford play to win and they attack, and you see Leeds do this too, they get their doors blown off sometimes. You lose goals, right?
Yep.
And goal difference matters at the bottom. It doesn't matter in the mid-table.
No.
So that could be something that at the end of the year you're looking at it like, fuck, we have to go win this game because a tie does us nothing, a draw does us nothing, because even if we draw even with Burnley for 17th place, then they've got us on goal difference by 5. So yeah, I've always, we've always said, go try and win games. As neutrals looking at these teams, we're always, of course, we want to see the best teams in attacking football, but maybe there is something to the Big Sams of the world, right? Like, I hate it. I hate that I'm saying it. And again, it's the devil's advocate point of view, but Burnley are 3 points behind Watford, and we'll talk about why in a second. But I almost feel like they might be in a better position than Watford if they can't go ahead and get some wins. Now, Watford is certainly more explosive.
Well, Burnley have some tough news. They've lost Cornet for a while.
Is he out?
I don't know how long, but losing Cornet during the Christmas period is bad, right? I mean, Burnley are on. They just lost, but they had been on a 4-game unbeaten run with 1 win.
Well, now, but they lose a relegation 6-pointer at Newcastle, right? Because now you're looking at. I mean, speaking of goal difference, Norwich is on minus fucking 23. What?
Yeah, but look at them. They're all on now. Now it's getting. Points. They're all on 10, right? Like so the Dean Smith appointment has made a huge difference. Those 2 wins put them right back in with the rest of the group.
Sure. And a couple of draws.
Yeah. We trust in Dyche for some reason. We don't know about Norwich. We don't know about Newcastle. So it's very, very tight. Like I can't imagine Palace would go down, but they're on 16. Watford are on 13. Palace, Leeds, and Southampton are on 16. Watford is on 13, and then there's 3 on 10. So it's not that far off the 6 points. But we all imagine that Palace, Leeds, Southampton won't go down, but they could. I mean,
sure,
I don't know. They
Yeah,
could get pulled in. I think the issue for Southampton is they can't score. But they're on XG of 20, but only scored 14 goals. That's brutal.
Yeah,
that is right there. That's Danny Ings. That's what that
means. yeah.
So we do have to go to the most high-profile game, not the best game to watch, but the most probably interesting game to watch, which was Man United 1-0 to Man United against Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace play the generic team that United play. I don't think it necessarily matters that they were in this game. They were not at their best. I didn't like what I saw from them. Gallagher couldn't really get in the game. But the first 30 to 25 minutes of United was the best I've seen them play, years as a unit.
Yeah, and so during this game, you talked to me, you sent me something. And you were basically saying something along the lines of, it's been this many games for United since I went, stop, because you have to look at United as before Ole and post Ole, right? Because there's just no other way to look at them other than that prism, because when you look at this season, there are 38 games, which means there are 23 to go for Manchester United. There's 60% of the season, roughly 65, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
There's a lot of racetrack left. And if Manchester United...
you want to talk about an easy schedule. They have
a
cupcake of cupcakes. I mean, it is laughable how, it's almost like the gods fucking had them change their manager. Here, you ready for the next 10?
Go for it.
Norwich, Brentford, Brighton, Newcastle, Burnley, Wolves, Villa, West Ham. They don't play...
They'll lose to Wolves.
They don't play a Big Six club until March 5th.
Stop it. March 5th?
When they play City again. Then the back half of the season, they go through hell. Then it's City, Spurs, Liverpool, Leicester. And then Chelsea at the end. But they basically have a run here where if they won 5 in a row, or if they won, if out of their next 30 they got 25 points, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, that really cements my suspicions and my fears that
the narrative.
Look, they're a point behind Spurs. They're 3 points behind West Ham. There's no reason why of those 3 teams. And I think, despite my comments about Chelsea, I want to be clear. They're
better than those teams.
They're comfortably right. Again, there's the oil and the vinegar and all the other sediments are sort of separating, right? And so you've got the top tier is 2. Chelsea's alone in the second tier, if you will, at 3. And then the third tier, I really think it's a 3-horse race. And I'm putting Spurs in it for now, and I don't necessarily believe that.
You should because you have Conte.
We have Conte and we've got
coach.
And we've got Oliver Skip.
And you've got Kane to start scoring.
Well, that's the thing, right? We're here, and Sonny and Kane have been absent for the most part.
Sonny's been good.
He's been fine. But he hasn't been anywhere near the first half of a year ago. And I'm not saying he should be.
No, he can't.
But find me the difference. Find me the middle, right?
Yeah.
And additionally, there's a direct correlation between Kane's quality and Son's quality, right? So
they connect together. Yeah, they have.
Kane is starting to do things. He's just not showing up on the score sheet. And what I mean by that is
well, the thing I noticed. So I'll go back to United, but there was a moment that he took the ball, just inside the midfield, maybe in the final third, and he turned and ran, and I was like, "Oh, he can run again," because he couldn't. Right. I was like, "What's wrong? He can't run."
Yeah, and so he's starting to effectively wake up, right? And
his body's starting to work.
He's getting a lot more hockey assists, which don't go down in the book, but those are he's setting up plays that are being finished off by others.
Yeah.
Anyway, my point is that tier, you have to put West Ham in it, whether you like it or not.
Well, they've got the points in the pocket, right? They're there.
Right.
I do want to talk about the Rangnick thing. United really worked hard, really played as a unit. If you are familiar with the best versions of Southampton, they basically played like Southampton play, with this idea of the 4-2-2-2, where it's a very narrow group, and they play with 2 10s and 2 9s. So it's a very weird system where they take their wingers and they bring them inside and expect them to work out. But what that does is it stops counterattacks, because they're a big central box in the middle, and they played really well. And they, to be fair, exciting, especially the first 25 minutes. I was like, holy shit, I'm scared. What's going to happen to the rest of us now that they have coaching? But then they kind of, first half peters out. Then the second half is just gross. It's just kind of stop start, lots of fouls, no real chances on either side here or there. There were some little things. And then Fred showed up with a really nice finish late in the game to put United through. I thought it was just after Jordan Ayew, who I didn't understand why he was playing. It was like, why is Ayew playing when you have Elise and Eze? It didn't make sense to me. Zaha did his usual thing where when he plays against teams that are actually good, he can't do shit. Very normal stuff. Benteke didn't really do much. Nobody really did anything for Palace. It's kind of disappointing from their perspective. I always have a soft spot for Palace. They've got something good going. I kind of wanted them to do more, but United get the win. They have their first clean sheet ever. It feels like they haven't had a clean sheet in eons. The fact that their defense actually functioned was incredible, because they've had 4 clean sheets. One was in week 3, and then they shut out Tottenham when Nuno was just being a bitch.
Yeah, Nuno on his last leg.
Yeah, so
the best game in Tottenham Hotspur history.
Yeah, that was the greatest. Oh, thank God. But that was decisive, to be fair, about Spurs. Like that's really illustrative of the difference between Spurs having decisive management, whether you like it or not, and what happens at United, where they fucked up and they should have signed him anyway. Now, they may win in the end with Rangnick. I feel like Rangnick is more of what United need rather than Conte. They would, if they had gotten Conte, they'd be still in the same cycle and they'd still be needing Rangnick later. But Rangnick feels
it's almost as if like there's the name brand is actually rarely the thing that gets you where you want to go.
Yeah.
It's the polished diamond that nobody actually really notices.
What they needed was like a provost of a university who's going into a school that has bad fraternities, right? And he's going to clean it up. They need Dean Wormer. They're going to put United is on double secret probation,
right?
And it's time. 0.0. So Rangnick is there getting things sorted out, and it was good. And I'm nervous. I think that United will be good now. All of a sudden, they have a coach, and the Germans have come. They've invaded. They are now bombing London. The radar
all the way up to Manchester. Yeah,
they did not. The radar did not catch them as they were flying over. And this is what would have happened if the Germans had won. And now they're here. There's a couple more games we can
skip around a little bit. We just talked about how those 3 teams.
Yeah.
Listen, Spurs won 3-0. What I'll say about it is it was uncomfortable and it was 3-0, and Spurs are the only team who can ever fucking accomplish that. And that's all I want to really say about it. Next. Because when we look at the table, right, like that's that 4, 5, 6. But what I was going to finish that thought was to say that United have to be the favorite for 4 now.
Absolutely. 1,000%. They're going to make it. They'll be
too far gone to really be a title challenger.
No, they can't get there.
And it's not that they can't make up 9-10 points.
No, it's that those other teams won't drop another.
It's that Man City and Liverpool won't drop 10 points the rest of the season.
Between Man City and Liverpool, there's probably, if there are 5 losses between them, I'd be shocked.
Right now?
What do you mean? No, for the rest of the season.
The rest of the way. Sure. Yeah.
Like it's going to be one of these. They're going to get into that 86 to 92 point range.
Sure. Yeah,
they're gone. They're long gone.
Yep.
And then,
if you extrapolate it, it's 70 right now for City over 30 games, and that's another 9 games is 27 points. So, they're in that 85 range. You're right. Anyway, but so I think that, United probably at the end of the day, especially with the run you just told me about,
they're going to take off.
But the one caveat is that it's almost as if you want to play some big games over the holiday break because you're going to fucking drop points at some point anyway. You might as well, instead of losing the points you should have.
That's the other piece that's difficult.
Yeah, I mean, reverse engineering, and I get it.
Yeah, but no, the other piece is there's weird results during this period. So for the uninitiated, there's like England for some reason, unlike the rest of Europe, plays through Christmas. Not just plays like 3 times as often as they normally do, and then the rest of Europe takes a break. They're like, we're done, we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
But
what I was going to say
where do you want to jump around?
Yeah, and so all that was setting up today's game, or yesterday's game, I should say, Everton versus Arsenal is a very interesting one. But as we look at the table right now, Arsenal sits 7th, and they're only a point behind United. But damn, doesn't that feel like it's 10? Like
they're not in the same class.
They're not there, and that's what I mean about the levels and the just these groups of teams starting to separate. And Arsenal, sure, maybe are they the best of the rest? Maybe, probably not, but maybe. But they sit at 7th right now. What did you have them in the?
I had them in top 5.
No,
did I say for them to be finished 5th? I did.
I thought it was 6th, but nonetheless. So they're
if it was
right
6th,
around, 5th,
whatever, it's fine.
They're right around where you said they'd be. They are who you thought they were. This is a game, like you said, paper tiger. This is the game that Arsenal nailed on loses. And I wish I had my wits about me because that would have been one of my best bets on Thursday.
But the thing is Everton were awful.
Yeah.
And just like
good.
No, not this game, but they had been coming off a terrible run where it was they just gotten smoked by Liverpool. It was all like Rafa's dead. This team's finished, but they found a way, and Rafa gets
36% possession. They had 2 goals disallowed, and they scored 2.
And one of them that they scored, the winner was ridiculous. Like I just watched it. It's from another time zone. Sure. Although they didn't get out to him. He's a good player, but that's a goal he scores 1 out of every 15.
And when I look at this rundown, and I saw a little bit of the game, I was working today, so I couldn't catch a lot of it, but Arsenal, 588 passes, but shots on target, 3. Like it's just much ado about nothing for the Gunners.
Well, Aubameyang shit the bed again, as usual.
Oh, that's weird.
And Nketiah hit the bar. I mean, they're missing finishing. They're missing nous. They're missing veteran leadership. But I think I still stand by where Arsenal are. They're still in that. They're up and down. They lose a couple. Their confidence drops. Then they'll play someone shitty. They'll beat them. They'll feel good and start playing well again. It's that kind of thing. What's funny is they have a cerebral coach in Arteta. What they really needed was Steve Gerrard, which is pretty funny.
Oh my goodness. Could you imagine that?
He's got a fire behind his players.
For all that Englishness that they have in that room too.
Yeah. And he's got Villa really playing well. They beat Leicester. I watched the game and I, for some reason, don't remember it as well as I'd like to. I'm going to pop open the scores and look at the scoring again. Oh, it's Konza twice. I remember now. And Harvey Barnes with a good goal. They went up first, and then Konza scored a couple, one late. There was a disallowed goal in this one that was just an abomination with Schmeichel, who I said was falling apart and a bad goalkeeper, and he nearly gave up a goal. And Konza put it in before, but Schmeichel had his hand on the ball. Then the ball is kicked out from under his hand, and the VAR says that he has control of it. Yeah. It's a shocking decision. It's ridiculous. It's one of these things where they'll have to change the rule because it's dumb. They just have to do that, right? It's one of these things. I think Leicester is actually in bad shape for 2 reasons. Yeah. Schmeichel is one, Soyuncu's the other. They can't seem to defend anymore. What happened, I think, in the Euros with Turkey, getting the doors blown off them, has damaged Soyuncu, who I really liked a lot.
I'm a fan. He's got a lot of Otamendi tendencies though these days, doesn't he?
Yes, I think I can see the same thing. The thing is, they have Vestergaard. Why don't they just? I guess
that's so strange. We talked about that as one of like the low key. That's such a Leicester buy.
Yeah,
right.
The problem is that if they play Evans and Vestergaard, you just run past them.
Run right by him. Yeah, I get
right,
that.
Because Soyuncu's really fast.
Yeah,
but he's now becoming a liability. I'm not worried for Rodgers. I think he's fine. I'm just worried for Leicester, and I'm disappointed that Daka didn't get on the score sheet because he was so good. He was really lively. We all love Patson Daka, but it feels like he needs to score goals or else he'll just get taken off from the game.
You're not worried about Leicester.
And then the other piece is like Leicester played well with our friend Kelechi 9.5 Iheanacho, and they stopped playing him for Maddison, who, he's. I wonder if there's a way that they can get Iheanacho, Maddison, Vardy, Barnes in together. They have that problem. They've got the same players over and over again, and I think really what they would need to have happen is they need to have Vardy go so that they can play the younger players.
Or they need to have Maddison go realistically, and they missed the window to sell big on him.
They should have sold him to Arsenal, and then Arsenal wouldn't have Odegaard.
Right.
So it's one of those sliding doors. I think Odegaard's better, honestly.
No, I
think Maddison is a little too slight and gets hurt.
If you go back 2 years ago, I think you'd rather have Maddison,
right?
At the point of sale.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny because they're friends, but like Maddison reminds me a lot of Dele, and it's just like, hey man, on any day you could be better than everybody here. You just don't fucking want it bad enough. That's what I get out of Maddison.
I think he does want it. I think he got hurt. I think
he's I was gonna say,
a couple opportunities where he got hurt
between the two. He's had some injuries and he's working through them still, but it's weird. He also doesn't play back, right? And the way to get all of those players on the field at the same time is have Maddison go from a 10 to an 8, and he's either incapable, unwilling, or Rodgers is unwilling, or some semblance, like some synergy of the three of those things.
The thing is Leicester has a poor man's Conte in Ndidi. He's pretty good. The problem is that Johnny Evans is bad, and their two defenders they have injuries. I get it. Whatever. I mean, the bigger thing for me is what Gerrard's doing with Villa. This is the Villa we thought we were going to have.
Yeah.
Right. This is the team that's now in the top 10. They jump over Leicester into kind of their space, and now I can see them pushing into that 8-9 area and being up there with that weird team. You know, there's clearly like Villa belongs in the Arsenal, West Ham area of the table, and the rest of it.
If we're going to continue to go
from the talent wise, right? They'll go up as the season goes along.
Yeah, if we're going to continue to have those groups, right? I started this by saying Arsenal at 7. If you're looking at the table currently, Arsenal, Wolves, Brighton, Villa, Leicester. Is there anybody there that you go, okay, 7 through 10, 7 through 11? Yeah, that makes sense for basically all of those teams.
Group. The weak link is Everton needs to be. Did you say Everton?
Well, right now they're in 12th, but
Everton really is in that. It's a real, and these are the ambitious group, right? This is like the teams that want to be higher.
With the exception of Arsenal, I suppose, but they get a pass this year. Historically,
and they're so
like,
big. They have I bet
you're banging on them.
Right. If you took the freaking payrolls of the three teams underneath them, they could fit into Arsenal's. Like Arsenal's still playing way over the numbers and
they
trying
fit
to
into
push
fucking Aubameyang's car, which is why he's late to games all the time.
Fucking loser.
Picking everybody up. You've any of these teams, I go, okay. The honestly big surprise for me in this group is Leicester being in the group at all.
Right. They've been, what was the stat? This was the craziest thing. During the game I listened, they said that Leicester has spent, in the past 2 years, Leicester spent more time in the top 4 than any team in the Premier League.
I believe that.
Because they fell out of the top 4 on the last day of the season 2 seasons in a row.
Yeah.
And City had some time out. Liverpool fell out for a lot of the season. Chelsea almost missed it. United obviously, but they were nailed on. Yes, you are right. They are the dead weight, and it's a defensive problem for them.
Yeah.
I think
I think that Rodgers has his head turned too. I think he's kind of bored there. I think he's done what he can, and like you said, he dropped out in the last day twice.
And the thing is like, to make fun of Spurs, because I have to. He got his FA Cup, he got his trophy, he did what he was supposed to do. He can walk away and go, "Hey, I won something here. This matters." Unlike Spurs, who seem to. You guys need that thing. Sure. You need that silverware. Yeah, okay. It matters. Hey, you drew the Morecambe Shrimpers.
Listen, motherfucker, it's your birthday, so I'm going to be nice to you about that shot. I'm going to give you that one for free. But no, but you're sitting there, Leicester in 11th. You're under 500. I don't and yet I wanted to say goal scoring was the problem. They're 6th in the league in goals.
Yeah, it's a defense.
It's a defensive problem.
And like I said, Schmeichel's bad. He's secretly bad, but they can't get rid of him.
I get that.
Well, any other games we should probably touch on?
Brentford was fun, but let's Leeds Brentford, and then we're going to finish up with the big finale, like we did last week. So let's talk quickly about Leeds and Brentford. No Tony, no awesome. Party.
Yeah, really fun little game here. Leeds went up, then Batiste brought it back. Brentford are up. They look like they've got this game in hand. The goalie's up in the 95th minute. My guy, Luke Ayling, assists to Bamford. Crowd goes wild. Awesome. He gets the card for taking his shirt off. It's not a coincidence that Ayling and that Luke Ayling and Bamford are back and Leeds are winning. Those two guys, the team didn't have the depth. This was Ayling's first game in a while. Yeah. He's back. He makes a difference. He makes their man bun equation make sense. So now they're back where they need to be. Rafinha with the assists on the first goal.
Our late draw. And that's going to be the segue. We talked last week about Neil Maupay. Okay. There was a clip from our show. And if you haven't seen it, go. What you had it? It was timestamped. You don't even.
It's like the 44th minute of.
If you're into this episode this long, you probably listened to it at that point. But go back and go about the 45-minute mark and listen to Laurent go on about Neil Maupay. About he's the kind of guy that's going to steal your girl and sodomize her. Okay.
It went further than that. It's even better than that. There
was better than that.
References to window wipes.
Oh, there's a million things. Yeah, no, we had almost a spit take. It was a lot. Okay. It's a good bit. Now come back to Saturday, that sets the scene for Southampton leading 1-0 most of the game.
Yeah.
And enter Neil Maupay. Go ahead, take it away.
Neil Maupay, he looks like he's offside. It's a free kick. Something goes on. I think Southampton's keeper is injured but still in the game and asks James Ward-Prowse to run into the line. And then so the shot comes, he runs back, the shot comes off, and then James Ward-Prowse is running back up to try and play Neil Maupay offside, but the shot goes wild. Maupay takes a shot like an atom ball, shot right at him, right to his feet. He takes a touch, slams it home, gets the draw. And as I'm watching it, the announcers shout, "It's the Neil Maupay again. He puts it in again." And I just, the way he puts it in. He slides it in. He puts it in. I just couldn't deal with it because, as we know, he's the friend. And then he does the taunting that he does on the road, the way a crap shitheel French guy does. The same sort of thing that we've been talking about, his sodomizing ways of stealing wives, stealing girlfriends. Hide your wife, hide your kids. It's fucking Neil Maupay, and he's getting draws late for Brighton. And then he draws for everyone, and he sticks it in again. This is a man who is a menace to society, and we have to watch out for him. But I do wish Brighton would get some goddamn wins because, my friend Mr. Potter doesn't look as good when he's just drawing games and sliding down the table, like Maupay slides into your Mrs. DMs.
Hey, there you go.
I was gonna say her sliding into.
Yeah. It's a family show.
Something slippery.
Oh my God. It would be amazing if he did the swan dive celebration.
Oh, if he does, I can't with Neil Maupay. I think I really, so he was another one of those guys that I had identified for Brentford when Brentford went from Maupay, Watkins to Tony. So they were like creating, scoring center forwards that they would then sell on for $45 million. Right. So they sold Mopé to Brighton for 25 and then Watkins for 40. They still got Tony. They'll move Tony on eventually when they'll just go, Bueno, you're the guy. They'll just move Bueno over.
Yeah.
And then they'll be doomed because he can't hit the side of a fucking barn. But Neal Maupay's evil. He is sliding it in a town near you. Where is his next port of call? Not your mother, but where is his next port of call? I need to know who Brighton play next. I think it's West Ham. So that should be West Ham and no, it's you.
Oh, fuck me in the ass. Not you, Neil.
Wow, they really have drawn.
Wow.
You should just look. This is an incredible.
I don't want to.
This is an incredible. I almost have to share screen just to show you where the poor. Look at that run of fixtures for fucking Brighton. That's pathetic. Yeah. Those are blue. That's a lot of blue. We're into crazy town.
Oh my goodness, so many mirrors.
Anyway, so that is the show. What else do we got? Do we have any betting? I don't think any of our bets went through. I don't think I took Brentford, but didn't actually put the bet down, and they ended up drawing in the last minute because that sucked.
Yeah, that's how it goes. No, I don't really have. We'll talk about that on Thursday though, ahead of the weekend. But
we have one thing.
What do you got?
Newcastle earning their first win of the season. Big deal for them.
Deal.
We talked about the bottom of the table. Eddie Howe off the Schneid. That was the Schneids. I don't know.
A lot of Schneids.
They're off the Schneid. We're on the Schneid. That's the beauty of doing the rundown before the show. We don't have to feel bad about leaving someone out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There you go. It's the new style. Do you guys like the new style? Do you hate it? Tell us.
Yeah, let us know.
We listen.
Okay.
Let's get the fuck out of here. Birthday boy.
That was the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast with Neal Maupay, Mike Salerno, and Laurent Courtines, specifically talking about bums. The football wing, we are the football wing of the Chop Sports Network. We record on Tuesdays and Fridays and birthdays, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast so you never miss an episode. We want to thank FanHub for bringing people our way. We assume that your growth is our growth, and we have growths everywhere, like hookers who have been with Neal Maupay. And if you're listening on Apple, please rate and review the show, and do not hold it against us that we're raunchy dirtbags.